Hi guys, got a tank build and paint and not got the diorama with it yet, so this is just the tank. It's a Cromwell 4, Mark 4 from Airfix. Got some pictures to start off with. I did look at a lot of references for this one because there was a lot of spare parts in the that weren't in the instructions. Lots of bits to use that I wanted to use as well, that I saw on old photos and that kind of weren't mentioned in the instructions. As you can see there, for example, the storage boxes on either side of the turret. It's a bit of a marvel of British engineering, this, all the companies that were involved. Austin, Rover, Rolls-Royce, Leyland, Vauxhall. It was a very British engineering project, and it's one of the cruiser tanks or cavalry tanks. It's quite a light, fast tank, light armour, light armament. But it comes from Airfix with, like I say, there's a few spare bits. Quite an interesting model to build. Fits together lovely, and yeah, not much in the way of photo etch. No figures, although I got a figure from a Tamiya universal carrier, and I put that in as a tank driver. I'm going to do it in a diorama with a burnout Panther tank, I think. But as you can see there, the extra storage boxes, they're not mentioned on the turret there. They're not mentioned in the instructions. The Hedge cutter on the front isn't mentioned. They're just alternative pieces that are included. The spare wheel on the back of the turret, sometimes put on the front sloping zip glasses of the tank, or on the back of the turret. So I've included that. There's a few other bits that are left over. There's different options for guns, and I'm going to include a few bits of storage that I've made or I've got from other models. So yeah, if nothing else, you just see that the model with a few extra alternative parts fitted to it that are not included in the instructions. I've only left one hatch open, even though you do have the option of the driver's hatch, the commander's hatch, and the second turret hatch open. Just put a little piece of wire there. It's a bit bent, but I think it's realistic enough as the aerial. So I had to look at some reference pictures, like I say, and the hedge cutters were often done in the field. They were just improvised, and they're often bent out of shape and twisted and filthy. So I play around with that a little bit towards the end, but I definitely wanted to use that because it adds a bit of a fearsome look to the tank. Again, you can see there the storage bins on the side. Maybe take away the typical shape of the Cromwell turret, but also the optional exhaust flue on the very back of the tank, which I did include. I basically made it to the spec of one of the tanks involved in the Normandy battle at the end of the war, the last 12 months of the war. All the decals that come with the Airfix model are just allied, generic. The white American star that I think the British tanks had. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was to stop the Americans accidentally firing on British tanks, because at least they recognised the white star. But yeah, doing it all just in the olive green, sorry. And then gonna have a play around with a bit of weathering. I'd like to try to mix some static grass in with mud effect, and just maybe do some tree branches and bits of hedge, bits of organic material used as camouflage around the tank, because I saw several pictures where the tanks were in northern France and they'd been covered in chunks of foliage just to break up the silhouette of the tank. But you know, it was a lovely model to make. It really was. The last model I made, if you're familiar with my videos, was the BTR-80, a very flimsy Zvezda version. And to go straight onto this, where the lower hull of it is very, very strong. You've got kind of cross members that form a really strong structure through the hull, and yeah, it was really lovely build. And then I mixed olive green with your German dark yellow, your Panzer dark yellow, to make about 50-50, to make the first step of highlight. And I do another step of highlighting after that, but I don't do a darker green. I mixed towards the end a little bit of yellow ochre oil paint with black oil paint, just kind of like a greeny brown, and then I use that as to pick out the indents and the details on the body. So I suppose you could say the darkest tone is added as a wash, and it's oil paints. Then there's the olive green. Then there's a third tone, which is 50-50 German dark yellow and olive green. And finally, about 50-50 buff with olive green, maybe 60-40 to the buff, and a final kind of highlighting of the bolts and the ridges and the edges of things. But you know, I think they were only in service for about a year, these tanks. They never look battered and bruised like the Soviet vehicles. I think they were quite well maintained, and so I've not roughed it up too much. Yeah, this was a treat for myself. If you're familiar with my videos, guys, I did an update of some of the models I bought a while ago in August, and sick of doing cheaper models, I splashed out on these, the Airfix ones, a Dragon, and a couple of others. I've still got a few to build, and I've got lots of figures to build to use in dioramas, and yeah, I'm glad I've got another Airfix one. It's an American tank destroyer or a self-propelled artillery piece, so I'm looking forward to making that. If you've made the Cromwell, guys, you know, feel free to leave a message and tell me what you thought of it. It didn't come with a sort of retaining ring or bayonet fitting to fit into the hole on the hull. As you can see, it's a complete circle, and all you can do is just drop or glue the turret in to the top surface of the hull. I don't like wasting paint, so I don't do a lot of the wiping it off with wiping it off the brush. I just kind of start by highlighting parts of it which would be faded in the sun, or might even be a different tone altogether, like a storage box or something. And then as the brush becomes drier, I'll then move to the main part of the hull, and then dry brush over the bolts and the handles. But I don't like to waste paint. You see people on YouTube, they pour a load of paint out and then put the brush in it and then wipe it all off on a tissue. It just doesn't make sense to me. That's not how I do anything. So I have bits that I touch up first, and just think logically about where there would be the most bleaching by the sun or the most scuffing. So I twisted, just through brute force, I didn't use heat. I twisted the blades, the 4 blades of the 5 blades, I think it might be, of the Hedge cutter. Obviously, as far as I know, the history of that is that the Germans in the country lanes of northern France, the Germans were mining and booby trapping a lot of roads and bridges and cut-throughs and lanes, and the Allies fitted the hedge trimmer to the front of the edge cutter, to the front of the tanks, just so they could cut straight through saplings and hedges and not have to take the route that the Germans expected them to take, where there might be an ambush set up or a mine set up. So I think Tamiya includes one with the Stuart. I think there's versions of the Sherman that have them, and I think it looks pretty good there with twisted the blades a little bit where it may have hit a fence post or a rock. So I think it's quite realistic. I've used some black oil paint at this stage, a wash of black and yellow ochre, to dirty up the body a bit, to dirty up the wheels and to pick out the details. And you can't see it from this angle, but obviously I've put some black in the as soot in the exhaust flue at the back. And like I say, the figure is a figure from Tamiya's Universal Carrier. He's the driver of the Universal Carrier. So he is just an infantry soldier, so his uniform's probably wrong. He has webbing on, which I think is wrong, but not to worry. Then I've got fuel cans and like a rolled up sleeping bag or something, and some ammunition cans. I think they're all left over from the LRDG Chevrolet truck or the SAS Tamiya Willys Jeep. They're just surplus British Army equipment that I have from other models. So it's right for the period, I think. I've got some Bren gun ammunition cans, and the brown rope that you can see is just some electrical wire. It actually was virtually rolled up like that already. There's a substation junction box on the street near where I live, and there's always coiled up bits of wire on the floor there. So if I need one, I know where to go. So I've just got some static grass, some PVA glue, a little bit of water, and the Sienna Vallejo dust and dirt pigment. So the idea is just to add some clods of earth onto the hedge cutter at the front of the tank, and that's because, you know, as it's driving quickly. I think these tanks could go up to 50 miles an hour because they've got a Rolls-Royce Meteor engine in them, and as it's driving quickly and bouncing around, it's going to be hitting the ground, hitting the side of ditches, and it's going to take big chunks out of the ground. So I just wanted to have that effect, that kind of turf effect. Just making the static grass sticky with glue. But it sticks to the brush and it sticks to the tweezers, so this tank was a bit of an outdated idea, obviously. By the end of the war, cruiser tanks, quick moving attack tanks, and the Centurion rendered it obsolete when the Centurion came in as a main battle tank capable of all sorts of things. The British had gone for slow moving infantry tanks like the Churchill, heavy tanks, and then these lighter skirmishing tanks or cruisers, and there's 4,000 of these built. Feel free to leave a comment about the if you have any insider knowledge on the Cromwell, but I don't know how successful it really was, but it was quick. I think after the war, Israel, Portugal and Greece bought some of those 4,000 off us. do like that Vallejo mud and dust effect, pack. This sienna brown is really nice, and using it quite wet on the wheels so that it dries very thin. It's a thin film, but I've used it quite thick and pasty on the front and back where it's been fired up from the tracks. I'm seeing it as just being splashed on the wheels as liquid as they go through puddles, but being ingrained in the tracks and the hedge cutter at the front. And then I've just picked a panel to muddy up as well where the driver has climbed up to get in. Then I've just took a big clump of the lichen that's cheaply available on eBay. I think I've been criticised on YouTube for using this in the past. People saying it's not realistic. I know it's just an old thing from the days of model railways and stuff. Not always the most realistic accessories, but I'm breaking it up into real little pieces. I've painted it like an autumn yellowy ochre colour, and I'm mixing it in with PVA glue because I just want to have a suggestion of bits of foliage being used on the tank as camouflage. Several photographs. If you skip back to the front of the video, I've definitely included one of them. Several photographs showed Cromwells with the little clumps of greenery being used as camouflage on the tank. I think it's a lovely olive green, that from Vallejo. And I've not gone mad with highlighting and rusting or anything like that. I've just done the wash, which isn't hugely visible from this kind of scale. Yeah, I've got a Panther tank that I'm not that fussed for, that I'd love to use in a diorama with this. Not like a action scene where they're fighting each other, but just the German tank burnt out and destroyed on the side of the road. So that's my next task, is to do that. And then I feel like I've still got 3 or 4 models and then 3 or 4 dioramas to do that'll take me well into next year. But at the rate that I'm doing them, with work and stuff as well. It's worth mentioning there's a lovely instruction book from Airfix with this. A little colour guide to the painting and the decals. The decals, as always with Airfix, were really good, and there was no excess plastic that needed trimming. The whole thing was really solid and well made. So let me know what you think, guys. I know there was a version that came after this with the bigger gun, and it's a shame I just didn't build that one because I think the tank would have looked much better with a bigger gun. But a lovely build, and I think I've added a few nice details to it. Like I say, the thicker sienna there, mud effects. And then thinner, just a residue on the wheels, because it does shift this tank, so I don't think it would have been bogged down in lots of mud. I've painted the extinguishers green. I might go back and paint them red, but they're red in the instructions, but I don't know how realistic that is. And then the spare wheel on the back, extra storage, that just fit over the moulded detail on the turret. Yeah, I'm pleased with this one, guys, and I really enjoyed it as well. Maybe, I don't know, 10 hours to build it and 3 hours to paint it, 2 or 3 hours to paint it. It's took me all week because I only get a chance to do it in bits. But and I've had a cold, as you might be able to tell from my voice. So I'll put a couple of the pictures up that are always to be found on my Instagram, Supermodel Dave. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to see more like this, just drop us a comment or click like, click subscribe. And like I say, the next step will be some kind of French diorama, hopefully with a burnout German tank. Thanks, guys.